All right, well, thank you to everyone for taking the time to come out here today. So this is our public hearing of the Erie CRIZ Authority. The purpose of this meeting today is to take a look, well, actually to receive public comment on a proposed map that was put together as part of the application process that the Erie CRIZ Authority is currently underway in preparing for DCED. Just for the sake of background, the CRIZ Authority was formed on August 29th, and we have a deadline of October 18th to submit an application to DCED to certify a CRIZ zone. What that means is, and we'll get into a little bit of the background here in a moment, is that we have a big lift, and this is a big part of that today, in order to accomplish all the steps necessary to submit this application to DCED, which we fully intend to do so by the 18th. So thank you to everyone. The map has been posted on the City of Erie website. A public comment process is available now. Everyone will have 5 minutes. There's a sign-up sheet in the back. And also we can receive, or we're open to receiving, written comment until Friday at the end of the business day. With that, I just wanted to thank everyone who's been involved in this process, especially the board. So far, it is an all-volunteer board everyone is putting in an incredible amount of work in order to complete the task in front of us. It is an incredible amount of responsibility that we have at our forefront right now that we're trying to accomplish, and we don't take that task lightly. Additionally, I wanted to thank the McDonald Law Firm, which has spent a considerable amount of time working with us on this application and through the formation process of the authority. Again, it's been a very big lift, but we have a good team to be able to put this. The City of Erie has been wonderful. Erin Pence, in particular, she's the GIS planning coordinator from the planning office. She has worked wonders to this point to allow us to get to where we are as an organization. And then several others. Infinite Erie has been wonderful to work with, as well as we've gathered information to prepare this proposed map as an organization. So I want to thank everyone who's been involved so far. We are happy to answer, or we're happy to hear any of your comments on the map. All of those will be taken into consideration by the CRIZ board, who has a meeting scheduled for October 9th to propose, or to ratify and to accept the actual map for application to DCED. So that'll be a process that'll be done. All comments will be taken into consideration, and this is truly something that we look forward to and hope to hear from everyone. And again, written comment is acceptable. So it's not just me here today. I'm here with Randy Patterson, who is a consultant that we're working with. Randy was the executive director of the Lancaster CRIZ for over a decade, and has seen everything from formation of the CRIZ all the way through to where it is today, and it's a very successful authority which has really been able to drive a significant amount of positive economic development in that region. And we asked Randy here today to just give a little bit of CRIZ 101 so everyone can have a nice basis of what the authority is, and also what the authority can do, but probably more importantly what the authority can't. Because it's very important to think about the way that this tool can be utilized in the community. It can be done in a positive way, but we don't want to create expectations that it simply can't meet, because this is highly regulated by DCED, the use of the funds, and also the non-use of the funds, so to say. So all those things need to be taken into consideration. And with that, I ask Randy to speak for a few minutes.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? I'm hoping I'm being recorded, but I have a tendency to talk loudly, so I think if you've seen my presentations over the last year and a half or so, this one's a little bit different. As Matt said, this is really about one-on-one basics of the CRIZ program. I'm not going to get into the success stories of Lancaster, because you're developing your own CRIZ program here in Erie. But most people ask, what is a CRIZ? It is an act of the General Assembly. It's a part of the tax code in legislation within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It was created in 2013. It's been amended in future years. The last amendment was just done this year in June, July of 2024 as part of the budget process. The program has a horizon of 30 years. Important to remember, because not everything happens in day one. It has a program year, 30 years from the date of the first financing or bond issue that the authority would issue to finance projects. That kind of sets your end date for the CRIZ program. It's intended to spur new growth in cities such as Erie that have struggled to attract developers, and create jobs for residents not just of the city, but it actually looks at the broader region as well. And it's comprised of properties that are being designated by the Erie CRIZ Authority to capture eligible state and local taxes. The key word there is eligible, and I'll run those real quickly in a little bit. It's not every tax that's paid by a business or a property within the zone. And its purpose then is to help finance projects. So the CRIZ district characteristics, which is really the crux of this public hearing, is about the CRIZ map itself in the district. It's a maximum of 130 acres by law. It can be less than that, but if you apply for less than 130 acres, that acreage that you apply for becomes your CRIZ district for that 30-year period. So you want to maximize the 130 acres. It includes a mix of private property, commercial, mixed use, business-related properties that are owned by public authorities and public entities, and some residential properties. The map is available, as Matt said, on the city's website. You can see it there under Government, the Authorities and Boards tab, and then the CRIZ tab. And the web page includes an executive summary and a draft of that CRIZ map, so you can bore down in the detail of what's being proposed on that website. So a question that's often asked, so what happens after we adopt 130 acres? Is that it? No, the CRIZ map and district can change over the life of the program. You may have a project that was identified as a project, as Lancaster did. The project was then financed entirely with private funds. They didn't need CRIZ assistance, as they thought they would at the beginning. So that property was actually removed from the CRIZ, and that acreage was held in place for designation at some point in the future. We've had other properties in Lancaster that either at the request of the property owner or at the request of the CRIZ Authority had been removed and again held in place. So in Lancaster, there's about 18 acres that are currently being held that can be redesignated at some point in time during the course of the program. And acreage can be transferred out of the zone, and when you transfer acreage out, the only acreage you can transfer back in has to equal that acreage. Always a little bit tough when you have acreage of different sizes, as you can see when you look at the map, but just keep in mind that the 130 acres can never become 131 acres. It's always 130 acres. So one of the key parts of the CRIZ program is increment, and it's certified increment. So the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the City of Erie will certify the eligible taxes that businesses and property owners pay within the CRIZ and present those dollars back to the CRIZ Authority on an annual basis. So the reporting is done the year after. So 2024 would be reported in 2025, and then at the end of 2025, the CRIZ Authority would understand what that number is. And then the increment is funds that are reported above the baseline. I'm not going to get into the detail of what a baseline is, how a baseline is calculated. It's complicated, but basically understand that the very first year that businesses and property owners report, that establishes the taxes they paid in 2024. That becomes your baseline. This certified increment is the amount above that. The intent of that is that it becomes somewhat revenue neutral to the taxing bodies, the state and to the City of Erie. Not always revenue neutral, but basically revenue neutral. So what are those state CRIZ eligible taxes? So corporate net income tax, insurance premium tax was added this year, personal income tax paid by shareholders of LLCs and LLPs who are actively engaged in managing a property, capital stock and franchise tax, bank shares tax. You'll notice all of these say apportioned. That's because you have to calculate that tax only for the property that is located within the zone. So if you have a business, I'll use Erie Insurance, that has property in other locations, they have to calculate the taxes for what is in the zone only. The other uses are sales and use tax related to activity in the CRIZ. So it's not sales and use tax that's related to activity anywhere in the city of Erie. State hotel occupancy tax is part of the eligible tax. So your hotels that might be located in the CRIZ, that state hotel tax that they provide becomes part of that increment. Taxes paid on the sale of liquor, wine, and other malt brewed beverages is also included. And then from the construction standpoint, projects that are being financed within the CRIZ, contractors can report on sales and use tax and employment taxes that are paid during the course of that project, and those are also accounted for. On the local side, it's local services tax. That's I'm not sure what the amount is here. In Lancaster, it's $50 that every employee pays that goes to help cover the cost of, in Lancaster's case, fire and police services. The local earned income tax is a little bit different. It's only related to those people who are residents of the city of Erie and work in the CRIZ. So if you live outside the city of Erie, your earned income tax goes to that municipality. It does not stay within the city of Erie. So it's only related to work performed by Erie city residents. And then the city amusement tax. There is one other tax that's available, but Erie does not have that, and that's a business privilege tax. The key to remember, one of the taxes that is not included from the city of Erie's perspective are property taxes. Hopefully, the development that occurs with the CRIZ program will actually increase that property tax revenue for the city of Erie. So what are some of the eligible proceeds or uses for proceeds from the increment? So real estate acquisition, it can be related to a larger project, or it can just be acquisition by itself. Demolition, site prep, and infrastructure, real estate development costs, architecture, design, environmental review, those types of costs, engineering and surveying costs and fees, costs associated with getting a development project through the city of Erie, the development process of planning and zoning and building code approvals. It can be used for new construction, for facade improvements, interior renovations, including leasehold. So if a business leases its space, it could still receive CRIZ assistance to improve that space. And then furniture, fixtures, and equipment. The key here is that it either has to be part of a new development project, so you're buying new equipment, you're building a hotel tower, you're buying new beds and desks and chairs and things like that. It can be included, or the facility has to be owned by a public authority. So you can't just use it to buy only furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It has to be associated with one of those two. Ineligible uses, always a question that's asked. Why can't we use it for X, Y, and Z? So projects that only involve program operations. So operating costs, salaries, those types of things. You cannot use CRIZ to fund that. Projects that only involve the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, unless it's owned by a public authority. Projects that involve only housing. Single-family construction, rehab, multifamily construction and rehab, whether it's affordable or market rate. If it's only a housing project, it's not an eligible use of CRIZ funds. It can be included with housing if it's part of a mixed-use project. So you've got commercial on the ground floor of a building and you've got residential above. You can use CRIZ currently to finance that. There is an effort to get residential listed at some point in time, but so far we've not been successful in doing that. And then infrastructure, but that infrastructure has to be related to the development of a facility in the zone. So if it's infrastructure that's unrelated to a project that's being done in the zone, you can't use CRIZ funds for that infrastructure. I use the example of streets. So streets are public property, not private property. But if you wanted to just do a street as part of a CRIZ project, only a street project, that street acreage would have to be included in your CRIZ district, part of the 130 acres. So in Lancaster, none of the streets are included. The public or the private property boundary, which is the sidewalk curb, is all that is included. But you can do infrastructure on that private property, just not in the public side. So the other critical piece of CRIZ is matching funds. So you can't finance a project 100% from the CRIZ program. You do have to provide matching funds for each project. So each project has to provide at least $1 of private equity, private funds, for every $5 that are provided through the CRIZ authority. So it's kind of different from other matching programs. Other matching programs are usually the opposite. For every $1 you get in public assistance, you provide $5 of equity. This is the opposite of that. And matching funds can be provided through federal grants, local grants, and private equity. State funds cannot be used for matching funds. Doesn't matter where those state funds come from, they are not matching funds. They can still be in the project, you just can't count them as matching funds. So what is private equity? Private developer debt and financing, soft costs associated with land development, costs of professional services, costs associated with improvements to the property, costs of land acquisition and real estate transactions that are not paid for or assisted by the CRIZ program. Any of those can be counted as private equity. Loans, federal grants and local grants speak for themselves. So it's important for people to understand the project approval process. So your original application, in Lancaster's case, I think we had 7 projects listed in the application, and then we had a kind of a phase 2 that gave a broad review of geographical areas within the CRIZ that we expected projects to occur over time. And then we had another area, I believe, that were likely projects, but pretty far down the road. So this project approval process is important to remember. It's not the local CRIZ authority that is the only entity approving your project. The CRIZ authority is the first entity that has to approve your project to receive CRIZ assistance. And assuming that they say yes, then the CRIZ authority will submit that project to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the Commonwealth has to give the final approval for the project to occur and to receive CRIZ assistance. The key to remember here is that there are 3 state agencies that have to approve that project, not one, which takes a little bit longer to get a project approval through the process. So the Department of Community and Economic Development, the Department of Revenue, and the Office of Budget all must agree that CRIZ funds can be used for a project. So the other question that's often asked, well, okay, you have an application that lists projects and potential projects. Can other projects be added? The answer is yes. Your program's going to last 30 years. Hopefully your major projects will get done in that early time frame, first 5 years of your program. So over time, those new projects may occur, other projects coming down the pike. So you just need to keep in mind that through the life of the program, you can add new projects. It goes through that same approval process that we talked about before. And the key here is you always want to talk about shovel-ready projects. So don't bring a project to the CRIZ authority that might be 10 years down the road. You should really have your capital stack, your financing pretty much in place, at least letters of commitment, letters of interest for that financing, and you should have your match in place. Then the CRIZ authority knows that when they send that to the state, they've got the capital side of things lined up. If you're just starting to think about the project, talk to the CRIZ authority, but don't consider that as a project ready to go and shovel ready. Increment use requirements. I just wanted to go through this real quickly. Again, the important piece here is shovel-ready projects because the authority receives its annual increment once a year, usually in late October, early November, after the state and the city of Erie have certified those tax amounts. By December 31st of that same year, so less than 90 days, the CRIZ authority either has to appropriate, budget, or expend those dollars that it received. So whether it's $1 million or $11 million, whatever the CRIZ authority receives in that October, early November timeframe must be budgeted, expended, or appropriated by the end of the year. And appropriated is to state-approved projects and to projects, again, that are shovel-ready and ready to expend those funds. If a project is approved and budgeted but not ready to go and then doesn't happen, those funds will likely have to be returned back to the state. It can't be held back by the CRIZ authority to put to another project. Always a discussion to have with the state on that. It's not in the legislation, but that's our sense today. There is one qualifier to that, to the amendments that were made this year, and that the city of Erie can retain up to $3 million over the first 5 years of the programs. And that's not a total of $15 million, it's $5 million total that has not been expended, budgeted, or appropriated. But after the 5 years, that money has to be budgeted, expended, or appropriated, or it would be returned to the state. And that's it. So a quick run through of some of the key components of the CRIZ and how it's going to affect your application moving forward in projects.
Excuse me, Randy, thank you very much. I think that my biggest takeaway is just how important it is for the authority to begin the planning process of how best to utilize these funds out of the gate, because this is it's a process that requires an incredible amount of oversight, as it should, and it has to be done very intentionally. And like you said, there needs to be actual shovel-ready projects and the accompanying match, which is easier said than done in many cases. So, but fortunately, as a community, we're in pretty good shape to be able to address that challenge. But with that said, happy to have anyone who's here to make public comment on the map. I think the notice requires 5 minutes for any individual, and we will take all considerations into the final mapping process. Okay.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Hello, and hello to everyone back there. My name is Ruka Jancy, and I'm the president and CEO of the Erie Zoo. Joining me today is the chair of the Erie Zoological Society, Jeff Beach. I am proud to stand before you today to advocate for a transformative opportunity, the inclusion of the Erie Zoo in the city's CRIZ program. This initiative has the potential to play a pivotal role in the future of the zoo by propelling our zoo into a new era of growth, benefiting not only the animals in our care, but also the community we serve. The Erie Zoo is a vital asset to our region, generating on average an impressive $21.2 million in economic impact annually, resulting in a massive $100 million in economic impact over the past 5 years. These figures represent more than just numbers. They reflect the zoo's role in driving local tourism, supporting local businesses, and fostering community engagement. In addition to our economic contributions, we have been a significant source of revenue for our local and state governments, contributing $1.3 million in state and local taxes and $226,000 in amusement taxes over the past 5 years. And each year, we serve nearly 300,000 guests, providing a gateway to the wonders of wildlife and education. Our commitment to education is unwavering. We welcome an average of 13,000 school children for field trips each year, instilling in them a sense of responsibility towards our planet's future. Additionally, so far this year, we proudly provided free access to over 12,800 underserved members of our community, including new Americans, reinforcing our dedication to inclusivity and accessibility and ensuring that everyone can experience the magic of the natural world. Our commitment to conservation is unwavering. We raise an average of $16,000 for global conservation efforts each year, reinforcing our dedication to protecting endangered species and their habitats. Additionally, we engage in state and regional conservation initiatives through partnerships with 5 Commonwealth zoos, as well as our own local initiatives, demonstrating our commitment to protecting local ecosystems. The zoo team knows how to do a lot with a little, and we are very proud of these accomplishments, all achieved while only receiving 4% of our revenue from sustainable government support. This limited funding hampers our ability to grow, innovate, and enhance our facilities, which is why I am here today. As mentioned in the CRIZ draft map executive summary, to continue our mission, we urgently need to address several capital projects essential for regaining our AZA accreditation. These include deferred maintenance, We estimate a need for $1 million in needed updates, including a new roof for our Caboca Outpost building and new HVAC unit in our education classroom. We aim to develop a state-of-the-art veterinary facility with modern equipment and high-level imaging, potentially offering high-level imaging services to our community. This project is key to regaining accreditation with an estimated cost of $10 million, of which we have $3 million secured. Upgrades to our IT and security infrastructure. We aim to invest $1 million in campus-wide improvements, such as a PA system, additional security cameras, webcams, and key card entry, which will enhance the safety for both our animals and guests. In addition to meeting our AZA needs, we envision CRIZ funding supporting a truly transformational project, an expanded campus, including a $13 million giraffe exhibit, complete with a new habitat featuring a public feeding platform, new holding building featuring the latest in giraffe amenities, and designed for behind-the-scenes experiences. This cost would also include a new relocated parking area. Furthermore, we would invest additional funds in an expanded front entrance area, complete with additional education space, new ticket booths, gift shop, and train station. These projects are not merely enhancements. They are essential to the zoo's future. By including the Erie Zoo in the CRIZ program, you can secure the funding needed to bring these visions to life. I am proud to share that we have received numerous letters from local government officials, from school districts, surrounding communities, as well as the president and CEO of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, all emphasizing their support to include us in this program. Imagine a future where the Erie Zoo thrives, expanding our education programs, maintaining exceptional facilities, and further enhancing the lives of our beloved animals and guests, all while contributing to economic growth and amplifying the city's efforts to make Erie a vibrant and dynamic place to live, work, and visit. With your support, we can make this future a reality. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. That was wonderful, and such great background to take into consideration. And what I would ask is that you possibly take your comments and then submit them electronically on the city website so that the board can take them into consideration as they finalize the map.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, if anyone else would like to speak, I'd be thrilled. Otherwise, we are here for a bit, but I think we're coming up to the conclusion of the hearing. Okay, with that, I think the hearing has concluded. Thank you very much.